It's about to be some grown folks talking here, okay?
No representation is made that the quality of podcasting performed is greater than the quality of podcasting performed by other podcasts.
Yeah, another BoomR Bob track. BoomR Bob show.
They steady trying to find a vaccine. Why not a cure? Freedom don't mean shit to them. Mask everywhere I go. Election stolen. Voter registration. Media patrolling. Trying to stop me, wanting me locked up. They won't let me out. Locked up. They won't let me out. Wanna keep us locked up. They won't let me out. No. They won't let me out.
Yeah. That's right, everybody. BoomR Bob show. Keeping it new. Keeping it fresh. Always trying to make something new for you guys. How are you doing today? So, anybody going anywhere for Thanksgiving? Well, let's find out if you should.
As the holiday season begins, you might be wondering about the risks of getting sick with COVID-19 as you make plans to celebrate. We asked the experts, what's the risk of driving to visit family or friends? Their take, the risk of contracting COVID-19 from driving to visit others is high.
It's not what you do, it's how you do it that really matters. Driving in a car with your household contacts, that's no riskier than being at home with those folks. The things where you may pick up some additional risk are if you have to stop and fill up for gas or use a restroom or use a restaurant along the way.
Or blow somebody behind a dumpster.
Or if you have to stop in a hotel or something like that. Those are the activities where you really want to be careful about what precautions are in place and how you're limiting your exposure.
Obviously, by wearing masks yourselves and using great hand hygiene and having hand sanitizer readily available with you while you travel, all will help decrease your risk if you find yourselves in those situations.
It's really the risk of what's going to happen once you get there. I mean, we've seen several clusters of cases in families where they've gotten together either for a wedding or some other gathering, and several members have gotten sick.
For more information,
or if you're going to meet with some medical professionals at a $350 a plate restaurant in California, I don't know what to say. You're not allowed to go visit your loved ones, people. Stay home. Let's see what's going on with the vaccine, shall we?
A lead doctor from the Trump administration's vaccine program offered some optimism for the U.S. He says a COVID-19 vaccine could be ready as soon as December, and Americans should trust the safety of the new drugs. Dr. Moncef Slaoui of Operation Warp Speed said Americans could expect a COVID-19 vaccine by December 12th. Vaccine candidates Pfizer and BioNTech recently submitted their vaccine for emergency use authorization and are awaiting approval from the FDA. Slaoui said if a significant number of Americans take the vaccine, the country could see some normalcy by May of next year. He said the administration is looking to vaccinate close to 20 million people in December and around 30 million per month after that. While COVID-19 cases are surging at record rates, there is skepticism of a vaccine coming out so quickly. Slaoui addressed those concerns.
My expectation, this vaccine will be as safe as all the other vaccines that are being used.
By
in
expectation.
The population. And I would really urge people to listen to the experts, look at the data, keep their mind open, and hopefully accept to be immunized.
So you mean the same experts that have been telling us what to do for the last 10 months and have totally fucking wrecked everything? Sure, I'm going to continue to listen to those people because they've gotten it all right? I mean, when all else fails, just blame Trump, right? They just said, you just heard them say, you should trust it. And all of you vaccine skeptics, well, you need to keep your mind open. Keeping my mind open is why I don't trust your fucking vaccine. If I kept my mind closed, I would just listen and do what you say. Here's what Fauci says about what's going to happen with the vaccine. Here we go.
Once somebody has been immunized, I guess for Pfizer, it's 2 doses. I'm not sure what it is for Moderna or the other vaccines coming down the pike. But once the process is complete, does that mean they can take off their masks? They don't have to social distance? They can just go about their lives as before?
I would recommend that that's not the case. I would recommend you have an added area of protection. Obviously, with a 90+% effective vaccine, you could feel much more confident. But I would recommend to people to not abandon all public health measures just because you've been vaccinated, because
of course
even
not.
though for the general population it
Gotta
might
keep
be
you in
90
line.
to 95% effective, you don't necessarily know for you how effective it is. So when I get vaccinated, which I hope to when it becomes my turn to get vaccinated.
Oh, you should go
I'm
first.
not going to abandon
You and Bill
completely
Gates.
public health measures. I could feel more relaxed
Then maybe
in
Biden.
essentially not having the stringency of it that we have right now. But I think abandoning it completely would not be a good idea.
Because 5 to 10% of the people that get immunized, it will not be effective for. So they might actually get the virus
Right.
if they just completely let down their guard. Okay, that's interesting.
So yeah, you get the vaccine. Keep wearing your mask. Keep washing your hands. Keep social distancing. Nothing's going to change. We're going to ride this wave as long as we possibly can and keep you under control. AstraZeneca, I think, came out today and said that they have a vaccine as well. And I sort of trust them because they're not lying. Whenever Pfizer came out with their vaccine, they were like 90% effective rate. And then the other one came out with theirs. I don't know if it was Merck or who the hell it was. I forget. But they were like, well, ours is 95% effective. Yeah, 95%. So then Pfizer came back out and was like, you know how we said ours was 90? Well, ours is 94.54%. Yeah, whatever they said. Ours is just as good as the other guys. Well, AstraZeneca came out with theirs. The only thing I've heard about it is that they're claiming it's 70% effective. At least they're not trying to lie and beat the other guys. Like, well, ours is 95.1% effective. Yeah, that's it. I'm not lining up for this. I don't know if you guys are. I hope not. I think if things were different and I hadn't already had COVID or I was in a high risk, comorbidity kind of a category, I might jump in and say, yeah, stick me in the arm. Screw it. I want to hang around here and continue to see how this world totally goes to shit. I don't want to die today or tomorrow or next week. I don't know if you guys know who Paul Joseph Watson is. He did a interesting little tidbit here I found somewhat humorous. I'm glad Americans aren't the only ones that are stupid.
They did a survey in numerous major Western countries, and in the UK, and this was mirrored throughout the Western world, they found that the average Brit, this is the average Brit, thought 5 million people in the UK alone had died from coronavirus. Now, of course, the actual figure, and that includes the people with comorbidities who would have unfortunately died anyway in the weeks or months that followed, the actual figure is 50,000. So what does it say about the power of media hysteria? Because that's the only thing I can imagine it's based on. That Brits literally think 100 times more people have died from COVID-19 than is actually the case.
That's pretty rough. And I would venture as far as to say that the British media over there, they've probably been spewing a lot more bullshit than even our media does. But I do credit our media for being the muse for their media. So here's a great idea. Let me share this commercial that was put out by the UN. It's cringy, man. Straight up cringe.
Digital transformation is changing the way we manage our data, our information, our interactions, and our identities online. The United Nations is ready to digitally transform how it deals with identity, with a system to streamline information sharing, daily workflows, access to platforms and buildings, operating across agencies by providing its personnel with a universal system-wide identity solution.
Oh, they're going to give you a universal system-wide personnel solution. What this is the biometric digital ID wallet. I mean, the music's got me going.
Introducing the UN Digital ID, a unique and digital identity for UN personnel from the day you join to the day you part. All of your personal, HR, medical, travel, security, payroll, and pension data in the palm of your hand.
Including
giving you full control on what you share and with whom. With
But wait, there's more!
blockchain and biometrics, the UN Digital ID makes verification efficient, secure, transparent, immutable, portable, and universal.
That's not all!
It's been piloted by different agencies and the UN Pension Fund, where they've replaced current manual processes with certainty for who and where pension recipients say they are at any given time. Imagine a regional field office has just joined the UN. She uses the mobile app to obtain a digital wallet, stored securely in her smartphone and only accessible to her with biometrics. Even better than a physical wallet, she can store all her credentials issued by any UN organization in her digital wallet. She has immediate access to course certificates, travel clearances from UNDSS, medical records from allergies to vaccinations, also making any transfer to another organization a breeze.
And if you act now...
As innovation transforms the world, we can improve the way we manage our identities online. UN Digital IDs, a building block for digital cooperation, unlocking the promise of the SDGs.
All available for just one easy payment of your fucking soul. Fuck me, dude. But you know what? I haven't watched this clip yet, or listened to this clip yet, but something tells me that the vaccine, you know, all these billions of dollars we've dumped into this vaccine may, well...
The FDA has approved the emergency use of an experimental antibody drug President Donald Trump was given when he had COVID-19 last month. The one-time IV-delivered drug is a combination of two concentrated antibodies that can help prevent the infection from worsening in patients with mild to moderate symptoms. Drug maker Regeneron says it might also reduce virus-related hospitalizations in high-risk patients. But the product is in short supply because it's made by living organisms at a biological pace that can't be sped up. Regeneron says it will have enough for 300,000 patients to get it through a federal government allocation program by January. This is the second drug the FDA has authorized for emergency use this month. That permission allows drugs to be distributed even though their safety and effectiveness are still being studied. In public.
Well, I mean, technically, isn't that the case with all of them, really? I mean, they just, if the FDA finds a reason to not approve something, they just, well, they wait for a big envelope of cash to slide into their fucking pocket from underneath the table, right?
Health crises, the FDA just has to determine if the experimental drug's potential benefits outweigh the risks.
Well, they have to determine how much cash can come their way too now, don't they? Everything is evil. I know. I've got three, well, I think they total around maybe 5 minutes, and I apologize, but I kind of think it's, well, it needs to be heard. This was at a major Canadian meeting, I guess you'd say. Of course, it was all done online, social distance, all that crap. And, well, you know, here.
Mr. Chairman, this is Dr. Hodkinson. I just want to let you know I'm standing by.
Oh, okay. Well, we would love to hear from you. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I do appreciate the opportunity to address you on this very important matter. What I'm going to say is lay language and blunt. It's counter-narrative, and so you don't immediately think I'm a quack. I'm going to briefly outline my credentials so that you can understand where I'm coming from in terms of knowledge base in all of this. I'm a medical specialist in pathology, which includes virology. I trained at Cambridge University in the UK. I'm the ex-president of the pathology section of the Medical Association. I was previously an assistant professor in the Faculty of Medicine doing a lot of teaching. I was the chairman of the Royal College of Physicians of Canada Examination Committee in Pathology in Ottawa. But more to the point, I'm currently the chairman of a biotechnology company in North Carolina selling a COVID-19 test.
So in other words, this guy kind of, well, his credentials are pretty thick, man. I mean, you can't deny that. This is somebody who should be listened to on what their professional opinion is here.
And you might say I know a little bit about all of this. The bottom line is simply this. There is utterly unfounded public hysteria driven by the media and politicians.
Yep.
It's outrageous.
Yep.
This is the greatest hoax ever perpetrated on an unsuspecting public.
Whoop that trick. Get him.
There is absolutely nothing that can be done to contain this virus.
Ding, ding, ding.
Other than protecting older, more vulnerable people.
Yep.
It should be thought of nothing more than a bad flu season. This is not Ebola. It's not SARS.
Nope.
It's politics playing medicine, and that's a very dangerous game.
And it's all being used to help usher in the Great Reset, man. The Build Back Better bullshit.
There is no action of any kind needed other than what happened last year when we felt unwell. We stayed home, we took chicken noodle soup, we didn't visit Granny, and we decided when we would return to work. We didn't need anyone to tell us. Masks are utterly useless.
Ding, ding.
There is no evidence base for their effectiveness whatsoever.
Amen.
Paper masks and fabric masks are simply virtue signaling.
Of course.
They're not even worn effectively most of the time.
And it also resembles a muzzle. You ever think of that one?
It's utterly ridiculous. Seeing these unfortunate, uneducated people, I'm not saying that in a perjurious sense, seeing these people walking around like lemmings, obeying without any knowledge base to put the mask on their face.
I mean, it is true. If you're not using an N95 mask, you're basically not doing anything. It's an utter fucking waste. Yeah, it blocks a sneeze and a cough. So, okay. Odds of you having COVID and sneezing or coughing in a public area where somebody else is going to get it are pretty fucking slim. So let's make 7 billion people wear masks that do nothing for them.
Social distancing is also useless because COVID is spread by aerosols, which travel 30 meters or so.
Been saying
before
this
landing.
for months.
And closures have had such terrible unintended consequences. Everywhere should be open tomorrow, as was stated in the Great Barrington Declaration that I circulated prior to this meeting. And a word on testing. I do want to emphasize that I'm in the business of testing for COVID. I do want to emphasize that positive test results do not, underlined in neon, mean a clinical infection. It's simply driving public hysteria, and all testing should stop.
Like Obama did in 2009. He stopped testing because it was, getting out of hand. It was becoming something that, the media might start covering this and make him look bad and create hysteria. But they wanted that under Trump. They wanted this worldwide. The reason that they wanted it is so, they could push forth Agenda 2030 and the Build Back Better bullshit. So they can get you to download your UN digital ID wallet. The data they suck out of your phone every day, the data that they suck out of those smart speaker devices in your homes, the data that they suck from the cameras that are attached to those devices on your home is not enough. They need more.
Unless you're presenting to hospital with some respiratory problem. All that should be done is to protect the vulnerable and to give them all, in the nursing homes that are under your control, give them all 3,000 to 5,000 international units of vitamin D every day, which has been shown to radically reduce the likelihood of infection.
Part 3, and the last clip. It's a minute and 13.
And I would remind you all that using the province's own statistics, the risk of death under 65 in this province is 1 in 300,000. 1 in 300,000. You've got to get a grip on this. The scale of the response that you're undertaking, with no evidence for it, is utterly ridiculous.
Yeah, I think more people die from random flying golf clubs at the golf course.
Given the consequences of acting in a way that you're proposing. All kinds of suicides, business closures, funerals, weddings, etc., etc. It's simply outrageous.
Yeah, and that's another thing, is that those aren't really being counted as side effects of this COVID lockdown bullshit. All of these mandates and whatnot, all this pandemonium over a virus. Nobody is really counting all of the deaths that are being caused by people who are going financially bankrupt, people who they don't have a meaning or a purpose anymore because they can't leave their house and go do their job. People who are constantly locked together with their wives and their kids, and it drives them crazy. They can't escape it. People who embrace substance abuse in order to cope with what's going on. And the way that the media, when you turn on the nightly news and you see the seriousness and the tone, we're all going to die. COVID is going to get you. There's actually people online who are posting videos that they're ashamed as a Democrat, as a liberal. They're ashamed that they got COVID because that's a Trump disease. It should only affect Trump supporters. How fucking stupid do you have to be ashamed that you got sick from a virus? There should be a vaccine for those idiots. It's called lethal injection. We don't need them. Fucking morons. Sorry. Another 36 seconds here.
It's just another bad flu. And you've got to get your minds around that. Let people make their own decisions. You should be totally out of the business of medicine.
But that's exactly what they don't want. They don't want people to think for themselves. That is why all of social media, including your Google searches, is being set up for you to tell you what to think, what to look at, what you're allowed to say, how you're allowed to think. The acceptable form of thought in this day and age.
Being led down the garden path by the chief medical officer of health for this province. I'm absolutely outraged that this has reached this level. It should all stop tomorrow.
It's embarrassing.
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you for that. Again, hopefully all layers of government are listening.
Yep. I appreciate him too. I wish that more experts like himself with his credentials and his background would come forward and just be like, yeah, COVID's a thing, but, sort of overdoing it. It's always a case, we're always reactive. We're never proactive. Vaccines are usually looked at as more of a proactive approach to a problem like this. You vaccinate your child. Why? Well, so they don't get mumps, measles, rubella, smallpox, whatever. But this is more of a reaction. It just needs to be looked at with a different lens, because when we're reactive, like the whole thing with the police brutality, if we were proactive, a lot of this shit wouldn't have happened. If there were money spent on training officers properly and making sure, doing background checks and whatnot, making sure that they're not turning into racist assholes, that they're not targeting one particular race or type of person, well, that would be proactive. But no, let's wait until they kill somebody for no fucking reason and then react to it. Now you've got the entire country reacting to it, not in the way that you want. Hell in a handbasket, people. So now they want the Trumpy Trump to lose his protections on Twitter. Let's go ahead and...
President Trump's Twitter account will lose special protections afforded to leaders when President-elect Joe Biden takes over in January.
They should have taken it away 4 years ago when he got in office. Guy's a jackass on Twitter. I mean, he's a jackass everywhere, but on Twitter, he's just a pot stirrer. Nobody... Comb through the comments underneath his posts, his tweets on Twitter. You're going to find 90% of the people on there, and happen to be the ones at the top. Twitter does that on purpose. 90% of the replies to his tweets are fuck you. Start packing your shit. Get out of this country. Admit you lost. Which is interesting because that's another dynamic I don't know if you've really looked at. When you look at the replies to Trump's tweets, it's all the rotten ones are at the top. You got to go pretty far down to find a positive comment like, "Yay, we love you. Good job. Keep fighting the good fight." Whatever, these guys say. But when you go to Biden's or Harris's account and you look at their tweets, and it's such virtue signaling bullshit. When you look at their comments, it's all, "We love you. Thank God. We're saved." And you got to scroll down pretty far to find negative comments. Somebody saying, "Yeah, go fuck yourself. You stole the election." It's just so weird that Trump's nasty comments are at the top of the list, but Biden's and Harris's get buried, and all you see is those that are supporting them. It's really fucked up, which kind of brings me into, let's see. Here's a clip.
Do you have somebody on your staff who protects you from reading things that they think you shouldn't?
Now, this is Kennedy asking Zuckerfuck and Dorsey this question of, well, do you have somebody watching out what media you get to digest?
No.
No.
Mr. Zuckerberg,
that was Dorsey.
Do you believe everything you read?
No, Senator.
Why not?
Because a lot of things are incomplete or incorrect.
Right. So you're allowed to judge that for yourselves, but your platform users are not allowed to decide that for themselves. You have to do it for us. You have to decide what we are allowed to consume.
So you exercise your own judgment.
Right.
Yes, Senator.
Do you have somebody on your staff whose job is to filter things that they think you should not be reading?
Senator, not externally, although I would hope that the teams that I work with internally do their best to make sure that the information that they're presenting me with are always accurate.
And they do. And then you decide whether or not it suits your narrative, and you thumbs up or thumbs down whether or not it gets to stay on your fucking platform. Back to this, Trump losing his Twitter protections after he's out of office.
Social media company confirmed to Newsy. Twitter's approach to world leaders, candidates, and public officials is based on the principle that there's a public interest in seeing what those leaders are saying.
Now, I just told you what their approach is with world leaders. If the leaders' politics align with Twitter's politics, then it's all happy, happy, joy, joy, and all the comments are beautiful and wonderful, and we love you. And I can't wait to name my baby Bo Jiden. But if your politics do not align with Twitter's, well, you get censored, belittled, and all the fuck you comments go to the top of the list.
Even if it's potentially false or harmful. But former office holders aren't afforded this position. Twitter told Newsy this policy framework applies to current world leaders and candidates for office, and not private citizens when they no longer hold these positions.
I guarantee Obama has never had a post scrutinized, let alone censored, let alone any kind of a little warning or a fact check box popping up underneath of it.
Despite Twitter's recent efforts to take expanded action on accounts spreading election-related misinformation, including President Trump's posts, experts who spoke to Newsy were split on whether the company would actually follow through with treating...
How is it possible that stupid-ass Boomer Bob can broadcast without all kinds of echo and reverberation going on, but this professional journalist can't find a room? Ugh.
Trump as a private citizen and more closely monitor his posts.
Those platforms, I think, with Donald Trump as a private citizen, will begin to treat him more like they treat the rest of us.
Twitter's a commercial platform. It has an interest in keeping Trump on their platform. These are platforms that have a business model, and the business model is attracting eyeballs.
The business model is to push an agenda because they know that liberals are very vocal. They think that their opinion, everybody wants to know what they think. Liberals think that people give two fucks about what they type on Twitter. And I can tell you, nobody does. It's an echo chamber for bad ideas. It's an echo chamber for, look at me, look at me. This is what I think. Look what I think. Click on the heart thingy. How come nobody's retweeting my shit? Oh my God. Ugh. So that leads us into Parlay. Now, a lot of people are calling it Parler. I actually got to witness a group DM conversation where somebody had a meltdown because another member of the group chat, group DM group, whatever you want to call it, it's a retweet group. Another member posted, hey, I'm on Parlay now, so if anybody's interested here, add me. And one of the guys in that retweet group was like, bitch, for a bunch of alt-right for conservatives. It's all you want to do. It's like, just shut the fuck up. He made an account on Parler and he's sharing it with you. You don't want to add him or join Parler or whatever. Who cares? Just shut the fuck up and move on. We don't need your opinion about what you think goes on over there. You just said you don't have an account there. You'd never make an account there because all it is alt-right people. Well, how the fuck do you know? Because you've never been there. You've never gone on the fucking site to even look at what's going on over there. Oh, well, somebody told me that. Oh, okay, so let's just take their word for it. Small-minded fuck.
Parler, the social media platform marketed as a free speech social network with a hands-off approach to fact-checking, is seeing a large spike in users, particularly with conservatives. Following the election, Parler's user base grew from roughly 4.5 million to about 10 million. As of Friday morning, it was the second most popular free news app on Apple's App Store.
This guy in his echo chamber of fucking reverb bullshit. Can you broadcast somewhere from next to your brick fireplace, please?
On Twitter. Newsy reached out to Parler for comment on this story, but has not heard back yet. Its most notable users exist across the conservative political and media landscape. Fox News host Maria Bartiromo, who said she'd leave Twitter 2 days after the election, already has 1 million followers. President Trump's adult children are on the app, and it's been promoted by politicians like Senator Ted Cruz.
Big tech is out of control.
He's right. Okay. And yes, there are a lot of conservatives over there. You know why? Because they go to the other two, the Facebook and Twitter, and they get fucked with. Like I said, I'm not going to continue to beat it into the ground. All right. But liberals can go to Parler too. Okay. You can go over there and I'll bet you that nobody fucks with you over there. As far as what you say, you're not going to get banned or you're not going to have your posts removed or censored. I mean, you might have somebody disagree with you. Oh, that's why you won't go over there. You're not going to have enough people patting you on the back for you saying stupid shit. That's what it is. You're not going to get enough confirmation that your ideas are great ideas. You're not going to get enough retweets. You're not going to get enough likes and thumbs ups.
Filled with hubris and flagrantly silencing those with whom they disagree. That's why I'm proud to join Parler.
Parler also features fringe groups and individuals who've been banned from other social media sites, like InfoWars founder Alex Jones and groups affiliated with the far-right Proud Boys. Newsy spoke to experts who said that Parler's newfound popularity is due to mainstream social media platforms' efforts to moderate dis- and misinformation.
What really has driven this movement towards Parler has been around the issue of election fraud and the labor.
Nope. I joined back, I don't know, I think it was June or something, just because I wanted somewhere else to drop a link to my podcast, so, it's not really anything to do with election fraud. I have my own opinions on that, which you might find out here pretty soon. Just keep listening. Stay tuned.
Of the president's tweets and some other conservative voices who have suggested that there has been widespread fraud.
The kind of content that we're seeing spread on Parler is very much related to stop the count or stop the electoral fraud, these sorts of things. When in fact, you have secretaries of state from Republican and Democrat states across the nation saying that there has been no electoral fraud. And so Parler is basically providing a space where people can air their political grievances, even though they've been proven to be completely false.
Experts tell Newsy that Parler's hands-off approach could turn the platform into an incubator for more dangerous content.
Parler's lax policing of the types of people who use the platform and the types of groups who use the platform absolutely results in extremist groups making use of the platform so that they can organize and communicate and recruit.
When we've seen in the past many of these platforms that have popped up as free speech havens, what has progressed from there has been some really problematic content.
So what are you talking about, like 8chan, 4chan, something like that? I mean, I never went on those sites, but I heard all about them and how it was all a bunch of alt-right Nazi freaks and whatnot. And it's like, okay, that's what you're doing here. You are trying to say that anybody on Parlay is an alt-right psychopath who wants black people put back in chains and et cetera, et cetera. You're not on there. Create an account. Go on there. Go invite your friends, go on there and see what happens. Oh, wait a minute. You might bump into a difference of opinion. You might have to have a discussion with somebody that you just yelling racist won't stop the conversation. It won't win you the conversation. So rather than sit here and shit on it, I have never driven a Toyota Tacoma. For those who don't live in America, that's a pickup truck. Never driven one. I'm not going to shit on them. You know why? Because I've never fucking driven one. If you haven't tried it for yourself, if you haven't gotten on there, made some posts, tried to find some people that you might know that are in your little group that usually agree with you and pat you on the back for everything that you say, then how do you know what it is? I have never, ever, ever, I have never eaten a Mexican pizza. I know that might shock some of you, but I can't shit on it, on how it tastes. I don't like Mexican food generally, but I can't shit on it because I've never eaten it. How the hell am I going to know how it tastes? Oh, those suck. Those suck, man. Those are only fat fucks eat those. Only losers eat Mexican pizzas. Why don't you go to Taco Bell and get you one?
Extremist manifestos. We've seen them be places
extremist
where
manifestos,
anti-Semitism, sexism,
anti-Semitism. Now, so you're implying that all of that's going down on Parlay.
Has sort of run rampant.
What remains to be seen is whether new users will stick around. Parler also saw a surge of new users in June after Twitter began labeling the president's tweets.
So what runs rampant on Parler? I can already tell you. And if you follow Alex Jones on there, just be ready, because that dude posts 40 fucking things an hour. Your little feed, your Parler feed, whatever you're going to call it, is going to be filled with scrolling past his shit. Jesus Christ, it's too much. Alex, condense that, dude. All right? Nobody wants to buy your goddamn pills. Just knock it off. What you're going to find is people having discussions, okay? And if Ted Cruz posts this video or shares this particular news story and you disagree with it, you're allowed to disagree with it without being censored. There's no fact check box underneath of his post. Nothing to discredit him other than other people in the comments that are having a discussion. I don't need a $1 trillion corporation telling me whether or not I'm right or wrong. If I want to say that tennis shoes feel better when you wear them on your hands, then I should be allowed to say that. Insert ridiculous thing here. Should be allowed to say it. You don't have to agree with it. You don't have to like the tweet. You don't have to retweet it unless you want to point out what a retard I am. And that's the other thing. You should be allowed to call me a retard. I don't like Star Wars movies, so you know what I do? I don't watch them. Why is that a hard concept to grasp? I must move on. Apple accuses Facebook of disregard for user privacy. Apple has criticized Facebook for trying to collect as much data as possible from users, saying it will push ahead with its planned launch of a new privacy feature despite objections from the advertising industry. The company's director of global privacy, Jane Horvath, made the criticism in a letter to a coalition of privacy groups, reassuring them that the feature, which will require users to actively allow developers to track how they use other apps, would still be launched. This is Apple talking. We developed App Tracking Transparency for a single reason, because we share your concerns about users being tracked without their consent and the bundling and reselling of data by advertising networks and data brokers, Horvath wrote. She defended Apple's approach to targeted advertisements, which she said was based on demographic details rather than user tracking. Facebook and others have a very different approach to targeting, Horvath wrote. Not only do they allow the grouping of users into smaller segments, they use detailed data about online browsing activity to target ads. Facebook executives have made clear their intent is to collect as much data as possible across both first and third-party products to develop and monetize detailed profiles of their users. And this disregard for user privacy continues to expand to include more of their products. So what they're saying is that Facebook somehow can track you across different products, meaning apps. I know they own WhatsApp and some other shit. Also the Oculus Quest. Or anything Oculus. Like now, I think if you bought an Oculus Quest to create an account, you have to create a Facebook account. Like you have to create even if you don't want Facebook, you have to make a Facebook account in order to use your Oculus, your VR gaming headset, which is ridiculous. Well, the claim drew a strong rebuke from Facebook, which accused Apple of using their dominant market position to self-preference their own data collection, while making it nearly impossible for their competitors to use the same data. They claim it's about privacy, but it's about profit, said Facebook. The ATT feature, App Tracking Transparency, which is expected to be launched in early 2021, has sparked a wave of controversy since Apple announced its plans back in July. When it is enabled, any app running on iPhones or iPads will need to ask users permission before accessing particular data that can be used to track them across other apps. This data is called, quote, identifier for advertisers, and the advertising industry fears users will refuse permission, harming its ability to personalize advertisements. In September, Apple agreed to delay the introduction of ATT to give the industry more time to prepare. That delay prompted another outcry from the privacy campaigners Horvath addressed in Apple's letter on Friday. These features will constitute a vital policy improvement, with the potential to strengthen respect for privacy across the industry. Apple should implement these features as expeditiously as possible. Apple has faced a separate complaint based on the very existence of the ID for advertisers, In a privacy case filed on Monday, the consumer rights activist Max Schrems argued that the tracking capabilities violate privacy regulations and would continue to do so even after Apple's planned changes were implemented. So, I mean, I think we should be allowed, I think all manufacturers, all app developers, everybody should be required to allow us to say whether or not we want to be tracked, whether or not we want to share our personal information. And not just like your name and address and your birthday and shit, but what you do, what time you do it. Oh, okay, he opened up the Facebook app at 2 a.m. He has insomnia. We need to sell advertising to him about insomnia medication. Okay, I heard his refrigerator open at 1:43 a.m. He needs diet medication, maybe some keto stuff. I mean, this is what they're doing. Not to be labeled a conspiracy theorist and find conspiracy in every rock I kick over, but sorry, but I don't trust any of them. None of them have my best interests at heart. They only want my fucking money. That's all anybody is to these corporations, is just dollar signs. How much can they get out of you? So speaking of getting money out of me, Apple has released 3 of their machines that, well, they're no longer Intel, baby. They're going to their own silicon, much like their iPhone and iPad lineup that has their own I think the latest one was with the A14 Bionic or whatever chip. Well, they're doing that now with their Mac Mini, MacBook Pro, MacBook Air, all that stuff. The M1 chip is quite a marvel, to be honest with you. I've been building computers for the better part of 25 years. I haven't built one in a while, well, because I went Apple in around 2011, 2012, and I haven't needed to. Now, I still have had Windows machines that require the occasional sliding off of the side of the case to access it and do stuff to it. But overall, I just turn on my Mac and it works. So with the M1 Silicon, what it does is it replaces the Intel processor in the Mac products. This is pretty big. You have hardware and software that was made to run together. Why do you think the iPad and the iPhone are pretty much flawless? They just work. Yeah, you have limitations, but everything just works for the most part. I've had a lot less issues with my iPhone and my iPad than I did using Android counterparts. Nobody likes an Android tablet. They're horrible. And while the Android phones like the S10, S20, whatever, they're beautiful, amazing devices, but they don't just work flawlessly. There's all kind of hiccups and idiosyncrasies and things that are like, okay, why is that there? Why is that menu over here? Why is that? Stop. You don't have those problems with Apple stuff. Sorry. For all of you Android lovers out there, you're like going out of the back door of your house and walking around the whole house to get to your car that's parked out front, when you can just go out the front door and be right there. It's the best analogy I have off the top of my head. Haven't been feeling well lately. So the M1 Silicon, basically, it takes all of the components that are usually spread across your entire motherboard, or in an Apple product known as a logic board, and it stacks them on top of each other in one chip, and one, I want to say CPU, but it's not just a CPU. You've got, within that one chip, you have your CPU, you have your graphics processor, your GPU, you have your RAM, you have all your I/O. So basically your north and south bridge chip, your USB port controller, everything, okay, drive controllers, everything, all of that, that's your I/O. You have security, you have neural engines, they're all stacked on top of each other in one chip. Now, what does that mean? Go and put up a tent inside of the mall and just live there. And when you need something, just open your tent and go outside of your tent. Everything's right there. There's no travel time. So what does that mean in the world of computers? Well, it doesn't have, everything's right there. It's all being processed within the same chip. So it's extremely efficient and extremely fast, it turns out. I've been watching quite a few videos on people who are not being paid by Apple that have tested this stuff out. Now, the current limitation is if you want to order one, it's available in the Mac Mini and the MacBook Air and the MacBook Pro, a 13-inch. You can order them in those 3 devices. And they're all 3 of them are going to have the same M1 chip. So there's no need to bicker over, well, which chip do I get? No, they're all the same. you get the option of 8 or 16 gigabytes of RAM, which sounds low, but think efficiency. Okay. You have less RAM in your iPhone than your friend has in their Galaxy S20. But guess what? It's just as fast because the software was made to run on the hardware and the hardware was made to run with the software. There's no need for excess. There's no need for, well, maybe they might need a little more RAM to make it faster because somebody might write an app or some software that, requires that. No, it's unnecessary. So you've got the M1 chip. You've got the 8 gigabyte or 16 gigabyte RAM options. Then you have anywhere from 256 up to 2 terabytes. Stepping it up, you got 256, 512, 1 terabyte, and 2 terabyte storage options. All of those are the flash memory type. They're all basically fused to the motherboard, not upgradable. Sucks. So buy what you need. I personally think that the 1 terabyte is the sweet spot. As of current, I haven't seen anything other than 8 gigabyte RAM models released. So when you go to order the 16 gigabyte option, all of the delivery dates looks like around Christmas. So they must not be available yet. You can order an 8 gig right now. You can go into Best Buy and get one. Okay. But they don't have the 16 gigabyte RAM available. So if you want one, you'll have to wait. I personally cannot wait to get my hands on a 16 gigabyte version, preferably a 1 terabyte. They did knock 100 off the price. If you want the entry level, you can get an M1 chip, 8 gigs of RAM, and a 256 gigs of storage for $699. I've seen them on B&H the other day for $669. And from what I've seen in the videos, these people are taking the base model because that's all they were able to get their hands on, the base model, the $699 model, and they're throwing stuff at it. And they're like, well, when I got to that 109th track in Logic, it started to crumble. It's like, yeah, well, don't open up 109 tracks of audio and audio editing software, and that won't be a problem. But I mean, they weren't poo-pooing on it. They were just saying, I only got to 109 tracks before I saw the CPU break a sweat. Okay, well, that's a good thing for a $699 Apple product. That's pretty amazing. Definitely check out the M1 line of Mac Minis, MacBook Pros, or the MacBook Air. So, not really a big fan of McDonald's, but the fast food giants' shift towards a plant-based meat could have major implications for the growing sector. So, as one of the largest buyers of beef, the most climate-damaging food on the planet, says AOC, McDonald's is working to reduce emissions by supporting regenerative agriculture. But it's also launching a new McPlant, plant-based burger, something that could also make a difference if it can scale up. This was about a week ago, 2 weeks ago, whatever. The company announced today that it was launching the McPlant after successful tests of plant-based burger made with Beyond Meat in Canadian restaurants last year. Some global markets will begin to test the new burger next year. At an investor meeting today, Ian Borden, the company's international president, said that the McPlant is, quote, crafted exclusively for McDonald's by McDonald's, end quote. But the company often works with outside suppliers, but has not announced what supplier it will use. Beyond Meat, whose stock sunk when the news was announced, tells Fast Company that Beyond Meat and McDonald's co-created the plant-based patty, which will be available as part of their McPlant platform, but did not confirm whether they were working together going forward. Impossible, which is used in Burger King's plant-based Whopper, declined to comment. McDonald's did not respond to an interview request in time for this story. So, yeah, I don't know if you guys have tried the Impossible Whopper or any other plant-based burger, but I'm not fucking eating it. I mean, if it's the last thing on the planet and they remove all meat, then okay, I might give it a shot. But for right now, as long as I can readily order a hamburger made with beef, guess what I'm ordering? The McPlant can go McFuck itself. The Impossible Whopper is aptly named because it is absolutely impossible that I'm actually going to order that motherfucker. Now, I know some of you have probably been like, well, where have you been, Boomer Bob? Where have you been, Boomer? But why haven't you put out an episode? Well, to be honest with you, I haven't felt like it. I haven't been inspired at all. Now, I do have voicemails and emails and whatnot and DMs that I could call out and answer. I'm not going to do that. There's just, you know what I'm going to do? I've got some time off this week. All right. Some of you, for some reason, want to hear what I think is going on with this election bullshit. And I just may give it to you. But I want to do that in one solid episode by itself. No other information, no other topics discussed. Because something tells me it's going to take a full episode for me to, well, lay out my thoughts on the entire election fiasco. So I'm going to take this time to tell you all thank you. I haven't stopped doing my show. I'm still here. I just don't want to put out anything that I don't want it to seem forced. I want an episode to come from within. And I don't just want to regurgitate what everybody else says. So till next episode, which could be tomorrow, we don't know. This is Boomer Bob thanking you guys. Check the links in the description. Boomer Bob Show on all your favorite podcatchers, but you already know that. You can call the voicemail number at 256-229-4105. That's 256-229-4105. BoomerBobShow@gmail.com. Till next episode, this is Boomer Bob.
Ain't no lie, getting old as a bitch. Gonna spit this game, only way I'll get rich.